Quick, you have just a few weeks to take advantage of a 20% transfer bonus to Air Canada. And that means you can get domestic flights within the US for less than 5,000 points and even multi-stop business class flights with a layover for only about 100,000 points. In today's tutorials, we're going to show you how. And if you stay until the end, you'll see me uncover a possible pricing bug within Air Canada's website. In case we haven't met, my name is Julia. I am the founder of GeoBreeze Travel, and I personally got about $100,000 worth of travel last year for approximately 90% off by using points and miles. And we typically save our clients more than $30,000 in travel in the first 6 months of working with our team. We want to provide you with a clear path to luxury travel with these step-by-step tutorials too. And viewer-suggested topics for these tutorial videos are always welcome, so let us know in the comments if there is a topic that you would like covered. Okay, let's jump right in with the terms of this Air Canada transfer bonus and how it can help you, even if you're not planning to fly to Canada. Chase currently has a 20% transfer bonus over to Air Canada's Aeroplan program through the end of July. Let's look into some of the details for this and also talk about some ways to maximize this transfer bonus. So I clicked into this article by Upgraded Points, and you can get this transfer bonus from Chase over to Aeroplan with a 20% bonus through the end of July. But also, if you have the Aeroplan credit card, you could get an additional 10% bonus, which means you get a 30% transfer bonus if you transfer 50,000 points or more, which can be very, very lucrative. So let's first go over how do you even do this type of transfer, and then also some ways to maximize this. So when you log on to Chase and you click on your Chase Sapphire Preferred or whichever card you're using as your gateway into Air Canada, which means it's either your Chase Sapphire Preferred, Chase Sapphire Reserve, or Chase Ink Business Preferred, you're going to see how many Ultimate Rewards points you have, and you're going to see this redeem button. So go ahead and click that. And then from here, you're going to scroll all the way down and click on More Ways to Use. And then you'll scroll down again and click on Transfer to Travel Partners. Don't click on Redeem Points for Travel or anything like that. You're only going to get 1.25 or 1.5 cents per point that way. So you're going to click on Transfer Points under Transfer to Travel Partners. And then here it's going to list all of the different transfer bonuses that you have access to. What you'll want to do is click on Air Canada and then click on Transfer Points. Here's where you're going to enter your Air Canada Aeroplan member number, then click Next, and then you're just going to say how many points you want to transfer over. So for example, if you wanted to transfer over 10,000 points so that it then turns into 12,000 points, that is where you would enter in 10,000 here, and then you should see 12,000 show up into your Air Canada account. So now that we've covered how do you actually logistically transfer points to Air Canada, let's talk about some ways to maximize this. The key to understanding Air Canada miles, I think, is this flight rewards chart, which you can find on Google. Just search for Air Canada Award Chart. Click on this first link, and you should see this PDF. The first sweet spot we're going to talk about is within North America, where if you're just flying a short hop, it's less than 500 physical miles. It should only cost about 6,000 points if you're flying with something like United. Similarly, if you are flying between 501 and 1,500 physical miles, then it should only cost about 10,000 points with a partner airline like United if you're flying economy. And if you're flying that short of a distance, I don't really recommend flying in business class. How can you find out exactly what falls into this distance range? There's another free tool that I like, which is Great Circle Mapper. And once you are on this website, you just click on Map, and then in the Ranges box, you are going to type in 500 MI, which is miles, at your airport. So let's say that you're based in Denver. You'll just type in your airport code, then click Draw Map. This will highlight everything that's within 500 physical miles of Denver, so you can get a good idea of where it is you can fly to for only about 6,000 points with Air Canada. And keep in mind that with this 20% transfer bonus, that means you only have to transfer over 5,000 points from Chase, and it'll turn into 6,000 points with Air Canada, assuming that you don't have the Aeroplan card, because if you do, then you only need to transfer over about 4,600 points. So let's say that you wanted to fly between Denver and Salt Lake City. You'd go over to Air Canada, click one way, book with Aeroplan miles from Denver to Salt Lake City, and I'm just going to pick a random date because I think this is a pretty common route. Go ahead and click on search flights. And here it says there's nothing on May 14, but there is a flight available on May 13 if you are flexible to travel on that date instead. And here we see it's operated by United from Denver over to Salt Lake City, only 6,000 points plus 47 Canadian dollars, which means you could move over 5,000 points from Chase over to Air Canada. It's going to turn into 6,000 points, and then you pay your taxes and fees and you get a very, very cheap flight from Denver to Salt Lake City that way. That's just an easy example of one way that you can move Chase points over to Air Canada, but in our upcoming tutorials, let's talk about some more complex examples. If you love free resources that let you maximize your points, check out geobreezetravel.com/quiz. There, you will find a free short quiz that will point you to the best resources depending on whether you are trying to earn more points, redeem your points, or something else. And by taking the free quiz, you will also get access to the free Points 101 course, which is a fantastic resource for anybody just getting started with points and miles. Okay, it's time to get into some of the fancy stuff. Let's say that you're not interested in United Economy. You want to fly a fancy business class flight, like Singapore Airlines. Well, that Air Canada transfer bonus will help you get onto those Singapore Airlines flights for much cheaper than what Singapore charges on its own website. Here's the play. Another one of my favorite uses for Air Canada is to fly on Singapore Airlines business class for less than Singapore Airlines charges on its own website. Singapore is one of my favorite airlines, and if you've followed my Instagram stories, you know that I've posted a lot about them. I've flown them more than any other business class, and I love it every single time. And you don't need to fly all the way over to Singapore to experience this airline. They have a few different routes that are called Fifth Freedom flights, which means that they operate between two different countries that don't involve Singapore. For example, a very popular route is New York over to Frankfurt, Germany, where you can fly this in business class for only about 81,000 points with Singapore Airlines Saver Space. Now, that's not bad, but we can do better. To find which of these are available on Air Canada, because the answer is not going to be every single day, I like to use seats.aero for this. Go to the Explore feature, and then click on Air Canada. Show flights from North America over to Europe, and I like to use the Pro version so that we can see the full year of availability. And then in the search box, I would type in JFK over to Frankfurt and sort by business class lowest. You should see that the price is only going to be 60,000 points here, versus with Singapore Airlines, it would be 81,000 points. And the fantastic thing about this is that with the Chase transfer bonus, you only need to move over 50,000 points, because then with the 20% transfer bonus, it will turn into 60,000 points by the time it hits your Air Canada account. What you also want to do is hover over the green price point, and where you see these different airline codes, you want to make sure that SQ is one of those codes. And we can actually type in SQ in the search bar so that it filters just to the ones where Singapore Airlines is going to be one of the options for flying on that day. Let's say that we wanted to fly the same date that we saw with Singapore Airlines, and it does have November 11 and November 15 available on Air Canada. You'll see that there's more availability directly with Singapore if you needed to fly on the 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th, 13th, 14th. But if you're flexible and you're like, I can fly either on the 11th or on the 15th, this should work out for you. Keep in mind also, there's only one seat available with Air Canada, but if you need multiple seats, then directly with Singapore would be the better way to go. To find this with Air Canada, for this example, we would search one way, booking with Aeroplan miles from JFK over to Frankfurt on November 11 for one adult. Click search flights, and here we do see that business class availability from New York to Frankfurt for 60,000 points plus 78 Canadian dollars in taxes and fees, and you would only need to move over 50,000 Chase points to take advantage of the transfer bonus to book this particular flight. There's other routes where this is available as well. I like this article by Australian Frequent Flyer that lists out all of the different Fifth Freedom flights in the world, and with Singapore Airlines, You could do this between Frankfurt and JFK, Manchester and Houston, Tokyo and Los Angeles, or if you wanted to do a short hop in Europe, they also have this fun route between Milan and Barcelona as well. And the process would be exactly the same, where you would compare the price from Singapore Airlines and then see if it's available on Air Canada for cheaper as well. Are you enjoying these types of tutorial videos? If yes, please let me know. Click that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for even more points and miles tips every week. Remember, you can get a 30% bonus when transferring Chase points over to Aeroplan if you also have the Aeroplan credit card. However, if you just have Chase Ultimate Rewards points with a card like the Chase Sapphire Preferred or Chase Sapphire Reserve, you can still get a 20% transfer bonus through July 31st, 2024. And if you're in the market for a new card so that you can earn these types of points, but not sure what card to get, check out our free credit card consultation form at geobreezetravel.com/consultations. We will send you a personalized recommendation based on your particular goals, budget, and lifestyle. Or if you already know what card you would like to get and you would like to support this show when you apply for your next card, we have our different affiliate links listed on geobreezetravel.com/cards. But before you move over any points, let's go over one of the more complex ways to maximize your Aeroplan points, which is with multi-stop flights. So let's go back to the Air Canada Flight Awards chart. When you're traveling between the US, North America, and this Atlantic region, you can do some pretty crazy things once you include stopovers. Because let's say that you wanted to cross from the US over through Frankfurt, Germany, and then somewhere into the Middle East. As long as you're staying under 8,000 physical miles, it should be less than 90,000 points, plus 5,000 points if you wanted to include a stopover as well. So let's do an example route for this. Like we saw before, there are some Fifth Freedom flights from JFK over to Frankfurt with Singapore Airlines, so let's continue on to there. And let's say that from Frankfurt, we wanted to go somewhere into the Middle East. I was looking into where different connections might take place, and it looks like the best option would be Muscat in Oman. And they have some availability for the summer, so let's look into August for this leg, and similarly filter down the JFK to Frankfurt legs for August as well. Once you're here and you found some dates that you like, you are going to go over to aircanada.com and then click on multi-city/stopover. Checkbox book with Aeroplan points. And then here, you are going to enter the route that you want. So we're going to say JFK over to Frankfurt. And let's say we want this on August 1st. Which it looks like there is availability based off of seats.aero for that date. And then for Frankfurt over to Oman, let's say that we wanted to fly around the 7th. Then you'll just go ahead and click on search flights. And usually these two legs together would be 60,000 points plus 45,000 points, which would be 105,000 total. But we're going to see that it's actually much less because of how we've structured the itinerary. So here we'll select the flight that we want from JFK over to Frankfurt, which is the Singapore Airlines one. Select that. And then from Frankfurt over to Muscat, we have this nonstop business class flight for 45,000 points operated by Oman Air, which I hear is a fantastic airline. Unfortunately, they don't have anything direct out of the US, but this is a pretty good way to experience that. We'll go ahead and select there. And here from New York to Frankfurt, with a few days stopover in Frankfurt, Germany, and then continuing on to Oman, is only 84,000 points in total for business class. I would pick this most popular option because it's a pretty good balance of fees versus points. And that's because if we map this out with Great Circle Mapper, from JFK through Frankfurt into Muscat is only about 7,000 miles physically, and that means that on the chart it would fall into this bucket, which is less than 8,000 points. So I was expecting this to actually be 95,000 points, where the entire distance would put us in the 90,000 point bucket plus 5,000 points for the stopover. But hey, I will take it for 84,000 points instead. Did the pricing on that last one seem a little bit weird to you? Yeah, me too. So in this next example, we are digging into another multi-step itinerary, and I possibly uncovered a pricing bug in Air Canada's website while doing the search. And if you're interested in leveling up your points and miles game to spot these types of pricing sweet spots too, we have a couple of options for you. The first one is the GeoBreeze Travel Patreon, which you can join starting at $5 through patreon.com/geobreezetravel. Each month, we prepare personalized step-by-step tutorials for the routes that our members request. We also provide open forum group coaching, where you can ask any questions that you have about points, miles, and credit cards in general. And we talk through some of the tricks that I don't really mention on the internet. And if you are looking to get even more free travel with points, and you are a business owner or individual who spends more than $100,000 per year on expenses, check out our one-on-one points portfolio management service. We typically save our clients $30,000 to $60,000 in travel in the first 6 to 12 months of working with our team. If that sounds like something that you would be interested in, book a free intro chat with us at geobreezetravel.com/intro call to learn more. Okay, let's walk through one last example for how to maximize Air Canada's program and fly 3 really long business class segments for only about 100,000 points. After how that last tutorial priced out, I'm a little skeptical of how Air Canada's website is pricing out these different routes and if it's actually following the chart that they've posted online. So we're going to do one more test with this between North America and the Pacific zone, and I'm going to find the longest flight route that I can, where it's going to be well more than 11,000 physical miles, and I'm going to build in a stopover. So I think that this should cost about 120,000 points in total for the itinerary I'm about to check. And if you wanted to take advantage of the Chase to Aeroplan transfer bonus, it should be about 100,000 points because 120,000 minus 20% is 100,000. So when I Google the Air Canada stopover 5,000 points dealio, it is still active on their website where each stopover adds just 5,000 points to the existing fare between the two different destinations. And everywhere that I've checked has this as well. However, this article was updated in 2023. This one is 2024, so it is pretty recent with NerdWallet where they are saying that this still works. 1 Mile at a Time says in 2023 it still works. Prince of Travel 2022 says it still works. Let's see what's going on. So I found some routes on Seats.aero from Houston all the way down to Auckland, New Zealand, far corner of the world, and then also from New Zealand all the way up to Japan. So this is the route that I'm going to try to plot. From Houston all the way to New Zealand to Singapore to Narita, and this entire thing should be about 16,000 miles, which means that it should cost about 115,000 points if this was all one flight, but we are going to build in a stopover in New Zealand, which should kick in the 5,000 extra points, so we should see this price out at 120,000 points. Let's check. So on Air Canada, we're going to do multi-city stopover. We are going to do Houston over to Auckland, and the date here, there were a few different ones in July. I'm going to pick July 6th, and then Auckland over to Tokyo for July 16th. Go ahead and click search flights. So here we would select the business class flights for 75,000 points plus 133 in taxes and fees. And then from Auckland to Tokyo, this goes from Auckland through Singapore, where you'd have a little bit of time to explore Singapore on the way there. And then going on to Tokyo should be 90,000 points plus $51 in taxes and fees with Canadian dollars. And it looks like what it's doing is just adding these two together for this third bucket, where 90,000 plus 75,000 is 165,000 points, and these taxes and fees are approximately 130 plus 50, which are the taxes we saw on those two different flights. I expected this popular bucket to be 120, where it's 115,000 points plus the 5,000 point stopover. However, that is not what we're seeing, even though that's what everybody's reporting, and even though that is what is shown on Air Canada's own website for their pricing policy. So at this point, if this were a route that you wanted to do, I would write down all of the different dates and all of the different flight numbers and call it in to Air Canada, because they should be able to book this over the phone for you, and you should be able to confirm, hey, the entire route is pricing out in the longest distance bucket, so it should be 115,000 points plus 5,000 for the stopover. Can you get that ticketed for me over the phone? A lot of these articles say that sometimes you do have to get them booked over the phone because they pretty recently implemented this multi-stopover feature, and I'm not sure it's working exactly as they've intended based off of this example and the previous one. So if you do run into something like this where you think it's pricing out at higher than what it should, I would just call it in to Air Canada and confirm what the pricing should be, and they can get it booked for you there. Keep in mind though, before you call Air Canada, be prepared for some pretty long wait times with their customer service. So just something to keep in mind as well. But if you could book this entire thing from Houston to New Zealand, then Singapore, then Japan for only 100,000 Air Canada miles, including the transfer bonus from Chase, that is a fantastic deal. I hope you found those tutorials useful. Also, let me know what other types of tutorials that you would like to see in the comments. Suggestions for future topics are always welcome. In the meantime, if you enjoyed these tutorials, I think you will enjoy this video next.